Let's throw our hands in the air
Woo-hoo.
as we soar through the sky.
Yatta.
We'll catch the sun
Woo-hoo.
with your hand in mine. And if we work as a team, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Cure of the What Now.
Let's henshin and start the show.
Hello, fellow swim team queens, and welcome to episode 18 of Cure of the What Now, the show where we definitely know what mountains are. I'm your host, Kat, and I'm the new girl at school who will rocket to superstardom in no time at all.
I'm your co-host, Joel, and also, I definitely know how to swim.
Oh man, I feel like I should do something about Joel drowning, but this isn't about him. This is about Tropical Rouge PreCure.
This ain't about him. This is about the new girl at school.
Okay, so one quick thing before we really get into the meat of this episode. Last episode, we said, we have a new ending song. We'll talk about it at the end of the podcast. And do you know what we didn't do, Joel?
Turn off the oven?
We did not talk about it at the end of the podcast.
Uh-oh.
I've checked and triple checked the oven. The oven is off.
Okay.
So, I listened to the ending again.
Very Sonic Adventure of them with that ending.
Yes,
there.
oh my gosh, you stole exactly what I was going to say. It has the most, early 2000s video game butt rock vibes.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I love it a lot. I definitely think that this ending works better for me than ING, which was the previous ending.
Okay.
What do you think?
I like it a lot. I think it's very telling that the beginning starts off with just La Mer and Summer dancing, and the other three are nowhere to be seen because those two are girlfriends. And then you get them each dancing in different locations pertaining to, their hobbies or interests or whatever. Papaya is dancing in the library, which she should know is not allowed. But Asuka is dancing kind of outside, and Karurun's in the corner for each of these. But for Asuka Flamingo, Karurun's just asleep, rolled over on their back, and it's just okay, sure, I guess Asuka has the most, chilled out vibes. I think that'd be Sango, personally.
Absolutely. I think that one of my favorite repeating visual motifs in this closing is they do a thing during their dance where it looks like a clock ticking down with their arms, and it's a song all about, seizing the moment, and so I thought that was kind of a clever way to
incorporate
tie it back into the show as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then one lyric that I want to draw your attention to, because I have them open on the wiki, is be honest about your quote-unquote interests. The quotations are also in the Japanese version of the lyrics.
Okay, to be clear, that's not some English.
Yeah, so that was intentional. Why are we putting quotations around the word interests?
Now, in the Japanese version, is it the English word interest, or is it the Japanese whatever equivalent is?
It's suki.
Okay, so it is... what I was going to say is maybe they put it in quotes because it's a borrowed word from another language, like how you italicize French words in English, that sort of thing. But if they put the quotation marks around it, then they're clearly driving at a greater purpose here, and they are clearly indicating to us that there's more than meets the eyes about the Tropical Rouge girls and that they're all Transformers.
Wow. Okay, excellent. This feels a little early to get a second end credit song.
Yes.
Do you think we will get the rumored, mythical third end credits song?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely seems that way. We've talked about this on the podcast before, but it seems like they're trying to hit the high notes early, so that way if they have to take a hiatus, they still can tell the story that they want to tell. But at this point, given that the world seems to be going back to normal and there probably won't be another hiatus, I really wonder if they're going to pad out the ending or if they're going to add extra stuff that they didn't think that they would have time for.
Okay, yeah. It'll be interesting to see what this season looks like as we get toward the end.
Yes.
Because, if they front load all the good stuff and then we get to, episode 30 and there's nothing left,
They've beaten the Witch of Delays, and it's just them entering a volleyball tournament. This turns into Haikyuu Part 4 or whatever.
They enter a baking contest, which, surprise, is judged by Yukari from Kiriya.
Of
but
course.
The camera doesn't, like, zoom in on her. It doesn't point out that she was PreCure. She's just there.
I really wish that we did occasionally get crossovers in the main episodes. Not like, you know, Cure Dream or Cure Lovely or Cure Whip shows up and helps the Cures, but just like in the background, you see one of the characters visiting the town or something if there's like a cultural festival or something like that. I would love that.
Well, and it's interesting because there is one villain who I believe does show up in the background of a few seasons.
Oh, interesting.
But he might only do that for like the special seasons, like Hugto was the 15th anniversary.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
That said, do you have a discussion question for us this week?
Good news, I have a bunch thought up ahead of time, although I will say it is your turn with the discussion question this week.
I was about to say, it's very cool of you to significantly reduce my workload by constantly coming up with discussion questions.
Okay, so this is the dumbest discussion question that I have ever come up with, but I love it. I cannot put into words how much I want to draw this. My skills aren't quite there, but someday. So let's assume that through some magical miracle spell thing, the Tropical Club members, including Manatsu, are each given a very small Manatsu.
Like, are we talking small enough to fit in your hand?
Small enough to fit in your hand, probably like, you know, half of a foot tall at most, probably 4 inches. And she is, you know, she can be Manatsu or she can be Cure Summer, but like, how do they interact with this mini Manatsu?
All right, well, just imagine Manatsu's mom walks by and she panics and pops mini Manatsu into her mouth.
What?
And then there's a shot of, like, her mouth kind of, like, an explosion happening inside of it. And it's forced open, and mini Cure Summer is standing there, like...
Okay, all right. I was not expecting that at all.
I just feel like when you've got something really tiny in your hand, like, the urge is always to pop it in your mouth.
You know what? Absolutely. I think that's how humans came up with chicken nuggets. I think we were holding like a little baby chick and we are like, better pop that into my mouth.
Oh no.
Oh, it's too feathery. We got to do something about that.
We need some textural additions.
Yes.
So I do think that Manatsu and Mini Manatsu would just be balls to the wall.
Yeah, I think they would each ramp each other up until it just became this exponential curve of just excitement.
Manatsu has never had to deal with herself, and so this little tiny gremlin child is like ramping up like crazy, and Manatsu's like, no, get off of the chandelier!
I absolutely love that. I think that Minori is most likely to carry Manatsu around in like a pocket sort of a thing and just, you know, feed her small bits of food and that sort of thing.
It was too late for Manatsu, but I can still raise this one correctly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she teaches mini Manatsu how to read, and she like writes extra small books that are the exact right size for her.
Oh, my heart, that's so sweet.
Songo would just be dressing up her Manatsu like all the time.
Oh, she
like, look at this
absolutely
dress,
would.
look at this dress, look at this dress.
She'd be sewing all these little mini outfits. Imagine her sitting at her vanity and Mini Manatsu's got a makeup brush that's like the size of her whole body, and she's like, nyeh, nyeh, and she's trying to help Songo with her blush, and Songo's just smiling.
Oh my gosh, yes. I think Songo would be like the dotting kind of mother type to the Mini Manatsu.
Laura would put hers on a leash.
She would just... Mini Manatsu could ride Karurun into battle. Just like a yatta!
Karurun, what are you doing? Kuru! What about Asuka? How does she feel about having a little mini Manatsu?
I think she would be a little annoyed, you know? I think that she'd be in her room just trying to, like, decompress or whatever, and Mini Manatsu would be, like, jumping off the walls and be like, yippee, yay, let's play! And she'd be like, no, trying to, like, calm this child down.
Asuka, is that a cage? Don't worry about it. She's taking a nap. It kind of looks like it's rocking back and forth. Yeah, she's fine. She's just settling down. Why is there duct tape around it? She's got air holes. Leave me alone.
Oh my god. Imagine Mini Manatsu just sprinting on a little hamster wheel. I'm gonna escape someday. I just have to run hard enough.
Imagine her getting trapped in one of the bubbles that comes out of the aqua pot.
Oh my goodness gracious. I like the idea of Mini Manatsu being even more energetic and even more feral, you know? Like, both of her traits just go up in proportion.
Now, they all have to go to school.
Of course.
So do they lose track of their Manatsus and just like a horde of mini Manatsu are running through the school causing chaos?
Okay, so there's two possibilities. One, the Manatsu just go crazy and they have to try to catch them and stuff, and it's to no avail. They're very small, very hard to catch. The other possibility is that they set up a mini Manatsu daycare inside the mermaid aqua pot, and they have to color code the Manatsus because otherwise Songo might accidentally take Minori's Manatsu home with her.
Karurun is supposed to be watching them, but Karurun is too Karurun, so they all get out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They stage an escape. There's like one who's the lookout, the other one is waving the other forward.
Oh my god, I love that. Like a four swords, but for Manatsu, that'd be great. Imagine the bad guys show up and they're like, all right, Yarine Da, and then there's just like 5 tiny Manatsus like streaking out towards the Yarine Da like missiles. And they're like, oh my god, they're even stronger than Cure Summer, even more powerful.
I love it. Speaking of going to school, do you have a succinct summary for me of this episode?
Yeah, I actually had to ask you, like, what happened in this episode before we started recording, but luckily I was able to remember. It is Laura's first day at school. She tells all the students that she's the best and they can't even possibly approach her level. She does really well in some of the classes, but in other classes, she's just completely lost. She's a little demoralized by that, I guess. She expected to just be best de facto, just by virtue of her birth. The swim team heard her say that her best activity, the thing she's best at, is probably swimming. So the swim captain's like, do you want to join the team? And she's like, I'm an amazing swimmer. They briefly do some PreCure stuff because the bad guys show up. Nobody cares. And then Laura is there to show off how fast she can swim. But surprise, she can't. She doesn't know how to swim with her normal legs. And she decides that she's going to join the Tropical Club after all, but that's secretly what she wanted. She'd already come up with a list of activities that she wanted to try, and Minori and Asuka are calling her out on her shit, essentially. That
was a great succinct summary. Were you surprised by the twist that she can't swim as a person?
So here's the thing. As soon as... Where's the thing? Here's the thing. It's right over there. Here's the thing. Laura... I expected her to not be able to walk when she switched with Minori's body, but she was able to walk fine. I expected her to not be able to fight like super well immediately because she's not used to the body, but she fought fine. So as it was leading up to this, you asked me that as we were watching, and I said, well, it would make sense that she doesn't know how to swim. However, she's already proven to know how to do all of these other things that a mermaid wouldn't normally know how to do, so I think she's going to be amazing. And then it turns out she doesn't know how to swim with her legs, which is fine, except it contradicts other canon that they've wrote.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Who framed Roger Rabbit rules? Laura is incompetent if it's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I thought this was pretty funny. I liked her, like, trying to turn back into a mermaid in order to prove that she can swim, actually. Also... confirmation that she can just switch back and forth whenever she wants.
She can just poof between the two. I saw in the PreCure Discord server that I'm in, I saw one person being like, was anyone else disappointed that she could just switch? And I was like, yeah. But it seems like the consensus is that it's okay to just not really care about the kind of tension that you might have in other seasons. And as we've said before, they're probably trying to... make it more episodic. So by not focusing on how will she get her mermaid leg or her mermaid fin back, you can just focus more on the character dynamics.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's fair. I am comfortable with this season being what it is, right? I really enjoy all of the characters. The episodes tend to be pretty funny. They've got good faces. So even though it is very episodic, and I generally prefer shows that have the deep cut lore and the plot that stretches over, I'm cool with it. At the same time, I am still expecting there to be a moment where Laura has to make a choice between staying with Manatsu and returning to the ocean. And I can't see that choice being as impactful if she can just switch back and forth whenever she wants.
I'm going to call it now based off of the general vibe of this season. I would love a season or an episode where like maybe she has to make a character choice, but based off of me expecting something a little bit more with more tension, more drama behind it from the season, and haven't gotten it so far, I'm going to predict that she'll just live in both worlds and it'll be fine. It won't even be a question, right? Maybe there'll be like half a second where Manatsu will be like, "Are you going to leave forever?" And Laura will be like, "No, of course not. I'll come visit all the time." Obviously.
Toei's out here like, "You remember that time Maho Tsukai made you cry a whole bunch? We don't need to do it again. You can just go rewatch that scene in Maho Tsukai." Kira,
Oh my goodness gracious. This is not a Maho Tsukai podcast. What did you think of this episode?
Like I said, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I was entertained by Laura being the I can do everything perfectly person,
yes.
But also she's kind of a weirdo. Like, we all either have been that classmate or had that classmate. I certainly was that classmate who is going to get up in front of everyone and be like, "Haha, I'm better than you." But also they're a little weird.
Okay.
And so I was vibing with Laura this episode.
She doesn't strike me as like super duper weird. Kind of like you get some pink cures that seem to be like really out there. I'm thinking of the first episode of, I think it was Smile, where she wanted to introduce herself perfectly and kind of mess it up a little bit. But she just was talking about how she's going to be queen someday, and all the other students are like, "Queen?"
Well, and like, from the audience perspective, we know Laura, and we know what she's talking about, so she's not weird to us. But imagine being a student at that school, and she gets up there and she says she's from a country you've never heard of.
Okay.
That she's perfect at everything, and she's going to be queen. She doesn't specify of what.
Obviously, she means swimming, clearly.
Applaud for me, humans! But no, I liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it was a good introductory episode for Laura. I predicted it was either going to go one of two ways. Either she was going to fit in perfectly or she was going to have a hard time with it. And it turns out she fit in perfectly. And that's, fine with me. I did mention this. She knows, like, what photosynthesis is, and she's like, that's obvious. Like, everyone from my country knows that, clearly. But she doesn't know the names of different mountains, and she doesn't know, like, traditional, like, Japanese culture, I think it was, and she was just kind of like, what? Her legs fell asleep, something that she's never had to deal with before, and she was like, what is this tingling in my legs?
Why do my legs feel like there's electricity in them?
It was a pretty good episode, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I like Laura having to confront that to be good at some things, you have to learn them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
I think I said right before Minori said it, but you not knowing those things is why you're at school, Laura. And then Minori says, this is why you have to study. And like, yeah, Minori, this is why she has to study.
Well, it's interesting for Laura to think that she knows things when it seems like she clearly had to study the things that she already did know. So she's like, why am I supposed to know these mountains? Well, because you're at a school that expects you to know it. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know how useful knowing those mountain ranges will be in your adult life, but that's what you're going to be quizzed on, so if you want the grades, you gotta know that stuff.
Yeah, well, it's funny, too, because none of the adults seem to expect their students to already know this stuff. Like, it seemed like they were teaching.
Yeah.
So Laura being frustrated that she didn't already know it didn't make quite as much sense as if they had, like, called on her and been like, Laura, name this mountain!
Yes, absolutely.
Did you have any other favorite scenes or quotes from this episode?
We already mentioned this, but when she went up to introduce herself to the whole school, they ask her, like, what are you about? And she basically is like, oh, I'm Laura Lemaire. And they go, what club do you think you'll join? And she says, I'm sure I'll be good at it no matter what activity it is. All right. Let's see you bake some bread, Laura, because I know for a fact that you said that you don't have bread underwater. So let's see you join the home ec class, and how well can you nail that?
Yeah, go bake some bread, you little goblin.
She's back to being a bit of a goblin in this episode. You can clearly see her being like, the humans are clapping for me. Oh, ho, ho. She's gonna start that political campaign any moment now. President Laura is going to be a thing.
Yes, absolutely. I like that the Tropical Club is all about doing, whatever activity feels the most important right now. And that's also Laura. Like, she doesn't have any one specific thing that she wants to do. She'll be good at it no matter what it is.
Yes, for sure. I already kind of mentioned there's nothing really to point out in the fight that happens when Dr. New Mary shows up. There's not really any new revelations. They don't really work together in any specific way, but they certainly did fight a Zen Zen Yarn Da.
They certainly did. I had a favorite scene. The butler is like, the queen's being a terrible bitch.
Yeah, no. She's acting up was how the subtitles translated it for us. It's like, interesting for the butler to say that.
Yeah, that's a weird way to talk about your boss, but like the queen shoots a laser. But my favorite scene was the butler's like, the queen is acting up. One of you needs to go get some juice. And Elde's like, no, I got stuff to do. And then Changi Ray's like, I also have stuff. And he scuttles out of the room.
Yeah, sometimes I forget that he's a crab. If it's just his face, it's like, okay, not human. But the scuttling helped remind me, like, oh yeah, that's his origins.
Oh yeah,
this is what he is.
This is a crab, man.
Crab with abs.
Exactly. But those were kind of my favorite. We did have a new character, the captain of the swim team. Meh.
Yeah, it sounds like the swim team at Aozora Middle School doesn't do very well in competitions. That's why she was hopeful that Laura would be able to just be amazing at swimming. I wonder if we're going to get an episode where they're teaching her how to swim, or if she's going to stay up late past when Manatsu's asleep to swim in the aquarium to practice or something like that. I have no idea.
That'd be neato.
But that's it for this episode for me, honestly. I don't really have any other thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to talk about Futari Wa or Kiriya next?
Let's talk about Kiriya, because I know that you really enjoy Bibury and her vore puppet. So
yeah, give me your Kiriya update for the week.
So Rio has been taken out of commission, so now a girl named Bibury has shown up. She is kind of like the tsundere, like looks down on everyone archetype. She has this little doll that I call Kermit because he kind of looks frog-ish and he's green. But he has the same black star on his hat as Rio had on his wand that all of the goblins from the first 8 episodes had on their belts. So that seems to be some kind of a connection between all the different characters. She has the ability to spread rumors. It's like it's almost like a virus. She says a rumor to someone, and it creates this like shockwave, but then out from them comes this rumor that infects other people. So she creates this rumor, all these rumors about the Kira Patissier, so that no one will go there anymore. Ichika loses her confidence, but then all of the other girls do their best to cheer her up, which is incredible, right? Aoi redecorates the place. Himari's trying out a new recipe. Akira is passing out flyers to different people to try to get them to come. And Yukari is using her club members, her Yukari fan club, to find information. She has a network
her
she can send
spy
out
network.
in order to find a picture of what Bibury looks like. So when Bibury shows up to mess with the Kira Patissier, Yukari catches her and is like, you're the bad guy, aren't you? And then the fight happens. And so, okay, interesting. We also get introduced to a character named Ciel, who is a cooking prodigy at the same age as Ichika. And Ichigo goes, I'm never going to be as good as her. And, spoilers, no, you're not. But at the end of the episode, Ciel has come to this town, and she takes off her glasses, and she's got non-human eyes that look suspiciously like Rio's.
Oh, what could that be about?
Julio's. When he's Rio, he has normal eyes, right? And so it's only when he's evil true form, whatever you want to call it, that he has those eyes.
Yeah, with his mask off, because
Right.
you can't see his eyes with the mask on.
Interesting.
Also, of quick note, his attacks were noir decoration. Bibury is noir filling.
Okay.
Which is fitting because she has the vore puppet, which eats up all the stuff. It gets full up.
Her puppet opens his mouth, and it seems to have its own, like, dimension in there. If you've played a video game, you know what I'm talking about, right? That's what Guzzlord does from Pokemon, and there's Kirby enemies that are like that, too. But he absorbs the negative Kiriya, and he turns into a giant monster, and I've been assured that he transforms in every episode that Bibury is in. So that's all very interesting, and also we get the first name drop of potentially the major villain. We hear about Master Noir, which, I mean, Noir means black, and Anti-Kiriya is kind of black, so I assume that that's the final bad guy, devil archetype, Witch of Delays, / Chaos, or whatever it was called from Maho, and okay, I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me, the differences between fan translations and the official translation.
Yes.
And so, like, Bibury, in the version I watched, was named Bibury. In the official, she's Bibli, with an L. And her doll's name in the version I watched was Iru, and in the official is Ill. Yes.
So I like Bibury better than I like Bibble, but I like Ill because, like, obviously that's the name they were going for.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I had a moment where I realized that and I went, haha, I don't always like the first thing I see better.
Absolutely.
There have perhaps been people who have accused me of only liking the fan translation better because I saw it first.
Speaking of differences in translations, we actually had a lengthy discussion with @Ivanhoe on Twitter, and that's going to be our July bonus episode that's going up later this week. And he had some insights on the differences in translations and why it is one way or the different way for some of the different seasons.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that episode to go live. Thank you to the Ivanhoe for chatting with us.
Absolutely. So what happened in the Futari Wa episode that we watched?
Oh boy. A girl wanted to tell the evil little goblin boy that she loved him.
Kiriya, I believe.
I know his name. I have it written down. I just wanted to call him the evil little goblin boy.
Okay.
A girl wants to tell the evil little goblin boy that she's in love with him, and I don't know why, because he doesn't seem that impressive to me, but I guess he's real good at sports and the girls think he's handsome.
I think he's hot is, like, the main thing.
Same reason. That's the thing, like, sometimes a show will be like, look at this hot character, everyone thinks he's so hot, and I'm like, you're right, that is a hot character.
Gilio.
And then other times they show me a character and they're like, look at how hot he is, and I'm like, that looks like a garbage sack.
Yeah, he has very pale skin, and it looks very unhealthy, and his hair's like this, like a dark green color. It doesn't work for me. Plus, he's drawn like he's, 10 or something like that, whereas other characters are either adults or drawn older than the characters they're interacting with.
Exactly. But anyway, this girl tries to give him a love letter. He's an a-hole to her. Honeka's like, hey, don't be an a-hole. And he's like, Honeka, you were actually an a-hole to me by encouraging her because you didn't think about my feelings, did you? How about that, Honeka? And Honeka's like, oh no, you're right, I'm sorry.
Right, yeah, because of course that's the exact situation that she's in, right? She just encouraged someone to try and speak their mind, and that's an inconvenience to him, the evil little goblin boy. At the same time, while he's having this, like, crisis of faith, I guess, trying to learn what it means, he used to wonder what friendship could be, you see. But while he's doing that, the poisony, seductress lady, Big Booba, evil vampire lady, she transports the girls to a mirror dimension.
Oh, heck, I forgot there was an actual fight in this episode.
Yes, and she almost killed them. She trapped them in a mirror, and with a snap of her finger, she could make the mirror explode and it would kill them. And right before she snaps to blow up the mirror that they're in, a light appears and they are able to escape. They don't explain what that light is. I kind of thought that maybe it was Kiriya trying to rescue them because he likes Honeka and he saved her last episode. But it doesn't seem like his power would be the power of light. So I don't know if it was him. Maybe there's like some like shiny power that will show up in the next episode that will reveal itself, but I don't know.
It's the power of love. I don't know. I like that there's a butler that can lecture Meppel when he's annoying Nagisa.
Yes, I like that a lot. There were a lot of good Nagisa faces in this episode. It was so weird because the episode title was like, midterms are a heart-throbbing experience. And I was like, midterms have nothing to do with romance. Like, what are you talking about? But Nagisa gets it in her mind that if she does well on the test, then Fuji P will like her, which, sure, maybe. You also probably should try to talk with him with your words. That might help, but, you know.
Do you think Nagisa is capable of forming a coherent sentence?
No. Oh, well, she knows how to order parfaits. At the end of the episode, she and this girl who's heartbroken run away to eat parfaits instead of studying for tomorrow's test. And Honoka was like, maybe you should study? And Nagisa goes, I didn't learn a thing! And that's the end of the episode.
I really am growing more attached to Futari Wa. Like, I don't think it'll ever be one of my favorite seasons, but it's above Glitter Force at this point.
Okay, fair enough. What would you say out of the seasons you've watched at least, like, more than an episode of, which one is your least favorite, do you think?
I really didn't care for Healing Good.
Oh yeah, I forgot Healing Good existed, because I think that Futari Wa still is near the bottom for me, but not because it's bad, but just because the other seasons did so much better, you know? Like, they built on the formula.
Not because it's bad, but because other seasons got colors in them.
Well, yeah, that absolutely is true, but, yeah, I think that about wraps it up for,
your
Futari
thoughts
Wa.
on our other PreCure coin?
But hang on, I have one. That's all my thoughts on Futari Wa, but I have one thought on Fresh. And we've mentioned that we're not going to give an episode by episode breakdown. That wig episode 12, was the best episode of anything I've ever seen. Okay, that's hyperbolic, but it was a very good episode. It was
really good. And I know that because this is a yearly show aimed at a specific demographic, you tend to get very similar episodes repeated throughout. So, like, we had an episode about Ichika's relationship with her dad and seeing him as an embarrassment, but then by the end of the episode, she's like, no, dad is cool, actually. And that was kind of at the core of this wig episode, and I'm a sucker for dad stuff.
Well, here's the thing, like, even though those are very similar stories, I'd kind of forgotten about Ichika and her dad having that interaction. I still think that Fresh did the story a little bit better. When I watched the Kiriya version of that, I kind of felt a little bad, but I felt like the show was trying to make me feel bad. Like, if they showed, like, a puppy that got abandoned or something like that would make me sad, but that's not necessarily because they put in the work of telling a good story. Whereas with Fresh, it wasn't like Love was... It's not like she hates her dad, but also it's very clear that she's annoyed by their differences in personalities and that this is something that's been growing for a long time, as opposed to, you know, she gained independence and it hurt her dad's feelings. And so I really like that episode. You got to see a lot of good reactions from different people. You got to see... It's a wonderful, wonderful episode, and when you see the thumbnail, there will be a Cure Berry in there, because I loved that single snapshot that I managed to get of her mid-fight. And the reason I remembered that we had Fresh episodes to talk about was because they also did the iconic two girls jumping off of like a beam from a construction site.
Yes, they did the kicky jump. Oh, I love the kicky jump. I will go feral for kicky jump.
Kicky jump is wonderful.
If you're listening to this and you've been in the fandom for a long time and you know the official name of the kicky jump, please tell me. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep calling it kicky jump.
Of course.
We did get some tweets in a bottle this week.
Yes, thank you to James and that one Wilder guy. Depends on, do you know him personally or do you just know his Twitter at? For more personal access to the hosts of Cure of the What Now, you can join our Discord server.
Only $5 a month and we will post feet pics. No, we won't. I'm sorry.
Wow, how Cure Lemaire's really gotten to you, huh? She's teaching you the feet supremacy techniques.
She really has. So James was saying that he loved this episode and that Laura started out by being very confident, but then the confidence was challenged by her not being familiar with land subjects.
Laura needs to be challenged. I don't like characters that are just perfect at everything, such as Yukari or CL from Kiriya. And so I'm glad that there are areas where Laura can continue to improve.
Absolutely. I love this one quote from that one welder guy, James. You uncultured swine, you've never heard of the country of Grand Ocean before?
To be clear, she doesn't say anything like that, but yeah, it's just, oh, Laura's so good. I'm glad she got a little bit of her gremlin energy back. She also got a Hime laugh in this episode, which, if you're unfamiliar with the term, is just kind of like the ho 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 laugh.
It's the princess laugh with your hand over your mouth.
Yeah. The kind of the mean girl laugh as well. And so that shows up in a lot of different anime, and I'm glad that Laura has it.
Laura could absolutely use her power for evil, and I'm proud of her for choosing to be evil for good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, I think that's basically everything that James had to say. Everything else that he mentioned was stuff that we've covered earlier in the episode. He did like Manatsu's mom being progressive and letting her daughter's girlfriend live in the house.
Yes, that reminds me of a tweet I saw from the Ivanhoe where he posted the picture of Manatsu telling her mom, "This is Laura, she's gonna live here from now on." And Ivanhoe was like, "Yes, mother, the girl you found in my bed last week is going to live at our house now."
Oh my goodness gracious.
I feel like as a parent, one of my first questions would be like, can I talk to her parents?
Yeah. And of course, Laura doesn't have parents. She was just birthed by the sea. She just kind of emerged from the sea foam.
Imagine if they had to call the Queen Mermaid on the Aquapot and have her pretend to be Laura's mom. The children are playing with swords. Goodbye.
Absolutely. And that has been your
Doot final thought. Outro goes here. No crack theories for you this week, but tune in next week and maybe we'll come up with something extra spicy.
Also, don't forget to Tropica Shine. Pretty cute one. Ha-ha! What a great episode of King of the What Now, your One Piece podcast that started from the very beginning and stars these two doofuses. If you want to follow us on social media, Twitter is the best place to do that. I am at KOTWN_pod.
And I am at Pirate Ghost Host.
Absolutely, yes. We share all sorts of thoughts on there, some related to the podcast, some related to other things. But you can also reach us through email at KingOfTheWhatPod@gmail.com, or you can also find us on Patreon. We would love some subscribers or supporters, whatever the technical term is. Patrons. So fancy and grown up. And you can find that at patreon.com/KingOfTheWhatPod. You can find all sorts of things like bonus episodes, and you get to see the full cold open candidates, not just the ones that make it into the episode. Maybe someday if I learn to draw, I'll put stuff up there. We're always looking for suggestions and feedback. And speaking of which,
please take a moment to rate and review our podcast wherever you get us from. So iTunes, Spotify, Scrivener, that's for writing. But wherever you listen to our podcast, take a moment to leave a review. It helps other people find us. We are so grateful to all of our listeners, and we couldn't do this without you.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is super powerful, so if you have a friend who likes One Piece and they haven't heard of us, just direct them to the latest episode. And if they hate us, they can tell us why. And if there's an actionable item, we'll try to please you. That's how this works. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.